This right here is the next generation of mopping robot vacuums. It's from a company called Dreametech. It's called their Bot W10. Now what looks like here a big auto emptying station is in fact a auto clean station. So this has two water tanks within it. The capacity of them is 4.8 liters. So there's one that is clean water, the other is dirty, and it rinses those mops, it cleans them, and when it's finished doing the whole cleaning of the house, it can even dry the mops so they don't end up growing any mildew or mold on them. But it's still a normal 2-in-1, or should I say 3-in-1 robot vacuum cleaner. So it sweeps, it vacuums, and it mops, and it can do it all, of course, at the same time. Now it has a 360-degree laser here at the top. The maximum suction performance is 4,000 PA. Battery capacity is 6,400 milliamp hours. And it has a fully featured application, which I'll all cover in this in-depth review of the Dreametech Bot W10.
Now looking at what we get in the box, and then I'll go over the design of the vacuum and the station. So here we've got a user manual. Now this is a very big one, thick one, goes over a lot of things, and it is in various different European languages. We've got our two mops. So the mops themselves, these are not removable. They're actually stitched into the plastic that holds them, and it's the frame of them. So the good thing about these mops here, though, too, as well, is that it does apply 10 Newton meters of pressure onto the floor, and these spin with an RPM of 180 revolutions per minute. So the best yet that you'll see when it comes to the mopping performance. And we've got a little side brush right here, and then the tool. So this tool here normally is inside the vacuum, but it isn't. There's no room for it, so it's separate now. Firstly, the vacuum before I get onto that washing station. So here we have our power button, spot clean, return to base home here, and you lift up the lid, and we have our dustbin. Now the capacity of this one is approximately 540 milliliters, or about 0.12 gallons. So it clips in and out, and when you open it right up, it's the same kind of design as the other ones. There's a seal around the outside, and then the filter is easily removed. You simply just pull it out like so. Now the filter does have this first filtering mesh over it, which is good to see, but it's not on this side. It's in fact in the inside here of it, where you'd normally see it on the filter. But that's good though. That stops all finer debris choking up and blocking this filter here. Of course, this is washable too, and you can get replacements for these, the side brushes, and the mops. And then right here, we've got the 360 LiDAR scanner. It has improved. It is a lot faster than previous models. And notice that we've got a D-shaped design, so more squared off here. That means it can get right in to those edges a lot closer than the round design that was seen on previous models. And most other robot vacuums are round. And then the underside. So the mops themselves just clip in magnetically, very easy to do so, and you can just pull them off like that. Now there is a spring in here with the bottom of them, and that is where it's applying that pressure onto the floor as it scrubs and goes along. So they both just simply slot on like that. So very easy to remove them if you wanted it just to be in a sweeping mode. So it can be just a vacuum mode, just a mop mode, or it can do all of them at once there. The two wheels here, so they are suspended, and the suspension on them allows for them to climb up different floor levels, heights of 2 centimeters. Rubber here with good traction on them, and our main brush. So wide, nice main brush here. There are 4 little little lint collectors, should I say there. And of course, this lifts out for maintenance and cleaning later on. These brushes eventually do wear out, and they do always end up getting tangled up with a lot of hair. That's why you've got that tool that I showed you before to clean them. So a 360-degree wheel at the front. There are 3 on each side downwards firing sensors. That is the fall sensors to detect the floor surface, but not only that, any falls. So it can measure the height. It knows that there's a stair there to not go down it. And then a side brush that simply just clips on here into the side, and it is easy to do that. Looking at the back of the W10 here, so these are the 2 charging point contacts. So when it goes into the auto clean station, that's where it connects up and does charge. So here is a exit vent, so what's being filtered then blown out the back, of course, is just the normal clean air. And the noise of it, well, it's up to 28 decibels. And later on in this review, I'll give you samples of what you can expect out of it. Runtime, about 2.5 hours on the lower power modes with this. And it's got 4,000 PA of suction power, 55 watts, and a 6,400 milliamp hour battery in this. Then up the front, we've got a sensor right here and the slam sensor. So this pushes in, detects when it has hit something like furniture, chair legs, for example, and then it stops. And on the right side, there is another sensor here. So this one is used to measure the distance between the wall and the vacuum so it can get as close as possible to get a very good close clean to the walls. And then our large drying station and mop cleaning station, but also this is where it docks to charge, which has two large tanks inside. So one's fresh water, 1.06 gallons or 4.8 liters. You fill this up, they're removable of course, so you take them out, fill them up, put it back in, and then you'll have the wastewater here that collects. So what it will do is flush and clean those mops, it's auto cleaning, and it will even dry them afterwards so they don't grow any mold. This is where the W12 goes in and the mops are cleaned right there. There's some contacts in there so it knows when it's connected up, and then it will proceed to flush and clean it and then even dry it afterwards. So this washboard here, it's called, is removable too. You can pull it right out. So you simply push in these two clips in the side and it does slide out then for easy cleaning. Now you'll see that there are 4 little holes, so those are where the jets squirt up and it rubs against that right there either side, and this is where all the dirty water is going to be caught there. And you'll see on the back of it, this side pumps in the clean water, the dirty water is sucked out from here, and then this eventually is going to get quite dirty around this area. So this is where you need to later a bit of maintenance to then clean all that out from any little bits of things that connects up inside those mops there after cleaning it. And then our application, so this is called Me Home. I've already added the vacuum and you'll see it does show up in here with anything else you've got with Xiaomi's ecosystem. So this is it here, the W10. Once you go into it, it takes a few seconds for it to connect up and it gives you the overall status of our robot vacuum. You can see the battery remaining, time it has been cleaning. That's from my last clean that I've done, the test clean, and the meters, the squared meters that it has cleaned. Now it will automatically break it down here into different rooms for you. So you can also configure that yourself if you want. So you can send it off to just clean, for example, room 3 or room 4. You can get it to do that. We have no-go zones. So you're able to set those up, and virtual boundaries, virtual wall that they call it, and a no mop zone. Now it can detect automatically the carpets so it won't mop them when you've got the mops attached to it. And that is very handy to have. Map management, so 3 different levels you can add. So if you do have a 2-story house with a basement, you can have all of that covered, which is handy. And for our settings in here, we've got our self-cleaning settings. This is to do with the mop. Now, how often do you want it to go back and automatically clean it? We'll go back and return to clean it. So you can set it up as either 10 square meters, or 5 is the default, or 15. And when it goes back, it does take a few minutes to give it a good wash and a rinse, and then it spins it a little bit and goes back out. And by zone 2, you can set that up. Now here we have the cleaning settings. So this is pretty standard. So you've got sweeping and mopping. You can have it to set up just to mop only, so no vacuuming at all. Or you can have just the vacuuming. That's it, all right? And then you've got suction settings. So you can have it on quiet mode, standard, which is the default. Then you've got strong and the maximum turbo, which it goes into automatically if you have that set up for when it detects carpets. And then the humidity of the mop. That is really how many RPMs it's going to spin that mop to dry it. So it'll spin it a lot faster if you wanted it not to be as damp, or it would spin it a little bit slower or for not as long if you want it to be wet there. So those are the settings there. Now in this menu, jump in this, you can see cleaning schedule, cleaning history, accessory use, remote control, locate it, firmware updates are down here. There's a lot of different settings. I won't go into absolutely everything, but the device settings are the handy ones. So carpet recognition, I recommend that you keep this one and turn it on. So that's when it detects when it goes over the carpets to then increase the power. So here it is, carpet boost. And we've got child lock on there, resume, cleaning mode, do not disturb mode. You can set the time for that to there. And the notifications that come through on it, voice and volume. And you can select from various different international languages there. So that in a gist, there is the application. It's straightforward, very easy to use, and it does have plenty of functions.
Now onto the cleaning performance. So like other robot vacuums that have the LiDAR mapping, so the laser distance mapping, it will go around all the outside of the rooms first and then cover the inside. So it zigzags back and forth. It's very efficient at doing that and does a good job with the standard vacuuming. Now with the mat that I have set up here that I test with these robot vacuums, I put down some standard, what I would call normal household dirt and grime. So here's bits of dust and dirt, some cereal and things, and it did a really good job of getting that off the carpets because of the 4000 PA. It sucked it all up, and your normal household dirt was not a problem. Pet hair and things like that got it really great. So when it's vacuuming, you can have it on the standard mode, which I normally just use for the tiled floors, at least around here it works well. And then when it detects the carpets, I've got it set up to increase the performance then to that maximum setting. How loud is it then when it does that? So here is a sample of the standard mode, and then you'll hear it kick up into the maximum suction performance mode. And of course it can clean under beds without any problems. That's what these robot vacuums are really good at. It did struggle, however, with a light mat that was sitting on top of the tiles. It ended up pushing it about everywhere. And I do see this with literally every single other robot vacuum seems to struggle with this particular mat because it's so light. Now the mopping performance is where this definitely does excel. It is the best without a doubt that I've seen and tested so far when it comes to hard floor mopping performance. So it goes around just like it does in the vacuum mode, exactly the same, but you can configure, of course, how wet you want these mops to be. It will go back, depending on the frequency you set in the app that I showed you before, into the station where it will end up cleaning those mops and then go out again. Now, the station, it does make a little bit of noise when it does all of that process, when it's squirting the jets onto those mopping pads to rinse it out, and then it makes almost like a coffee maker kind of noise, a gurgling noise, and I'll give you a sample of just what it sounds like when it goes through those cycles. So yeah, it does make a few odd noises. Now in difficult areas like underneath the dining room table at my house here, I've got young children. There is an area that did have a bit of, I don't know what it was, food or something that was spilt on the floor that had been there for a few days. Now it did go past it in the first pass, it didn't get everything as you can see, but the second pass, it did manage to get rid of most of that, so that is great. So those heavier use areas or somewhere where it's going to be quite dirtier compared to the rest of the house, like say the kitchen floor for example, you might have to go over those a couple of times, but certainly a lot better than what I've seen with other robot vacuums that just simply have a mop, which is a microfiber cloth that's wet, and drag it across the floor. This thing is actually scrubbing and moving, which is really great. That's where it makes a big difference. Now when it is in this, when it's done all of its cleaning, it then goes into the mop drying mode. Now that does take a while. I haven't timed it exactly, but I do think it was around 15 minutes. Here's a very quick sample of what it sounds like when it's then drying those mops so they don't end up growing any mildew or mold on them. And lastly too, you're going to have to empty this, which is the waste bin. Now there is a little float in here, so it knows when it's full, it then triggers a little switch in there, the sensor, so to tell you it needs to be emptied. Now you can see, this is from just mopping my downstairs floor. It hasn't quite filled up yet, and look at the state of that water. It is brown, very dirty, and we only mopped just a few days ago, so it does a really good job at that. So that one you have to empty less frequently, and then you have to fill this up more though. So after just mopping downstairs, it's used up about half of this, so about half a gallon or around 2.4 or so liters. So after about every 2 mops or so of your house, depending on how big your house is, of course, you will have to fill this up. But I did have it set to the more moist, wet setting for the mops there. So that's probably why it used so much water. Now when it comes to the things I don't like about this particular mop here, I'd have to say some minor annoyances, like even though this station's very large, it is just clean water and waste water only. So it's not an auto vac station as well, an auto empty station. That would have been good because then you wouldn't have to empty this. The other thing is you can't just empty the dustbin when it's in the dock. So when it docks where you'll normally have it, it's going to be right in here. Okay, I'll just demonstrate it. Right in like so. You can't. That's it. You're not able to actually get in there and empty that dustbin. So overall, it does an excellent job of cleaning. When you take a look at those dustbins, even after we've already done a manual clean ourselves, it always surprises me how much muck these things manage to collect there, quite a bit. So the results do speak for itself. Now it is an expensive machine here. It costs about 2 or 3 times more than your typical robot vacuums. Is it worth it? I think it is if you really want something that's going to do the best job when it comes to mopping your floors, and the price of it isn't a problem for you then. So if you're someone that has huge amount of tiled floors, you hate mopping the floors all the time, you want to keep them pristine, this is your robot vac for it. If you don't have a lot of tiles or hard floors, then you're probably better off to get one of Dreametech's smaller machines, well, the normal ones that don't have the exclusive mopping feature and the rinse feature like this one does. So thank you so much for watching my review here of Dreametech's Bot W10. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.